How's that? Can you see me? Is
I
that
can see
weird?
you.
Oh,
That
there we
works.
are.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I am doing well. How you holding up during all? I see. Is this little beard competition between you and LeBron going on? That is nice.
No, I wouldn't call it a competition, but I did dye mine gray this morning. I woke up
Yeah,
and decided to put a little color in there.
I
Um,
like it.
I'm doing well. Obviously, this has not been easy for any of us. It's been a lot longer than any of us wanted.
Right,
But the fact of the matter is, it's what will make us great as people and a country and a world as humans is the comeback, right? It's
right.
the thing we all love about sport is the comeback. So I'm very trying to get my head and focus around that. I'm lucky to work at a company that's still working and still have things going on. And most importantly, I'm grateful to have people on the team who've been responsive, been very innovative, very creative in their thinking. So I'm grateful for that and grateful for my family. I've spent more time with my family than I ever would have gotten the chance to for 6 straight weeks ever. So all in all, I'm doing well, but I understand it's been tough for everybody and not easy for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, so I really, I guess it's a great way for us to start the conversation when this really started to hit that it was going to be something pretty big. Sports were shutting down. Everything was getting a little bit crazy. You wrote about how a lot of people during these times will focus on what they can't do, but you said it was really important to focus on what you can, and specifically, you talked about this idea of being more than. Can you speak to how important that's been to helping you and all of your teams get through this and really try and help others get through it as well?
Yeah, I mean, at our company at Uninterrupted in Spring Hill, we really do believe in that. That's part of our mission, is in helping people be empowered to become more than and fill in your blank, more than an athlete, more than an executive, more than a brother, more than a sister, more than a mother. And it's important to think about what you can do to become more than, and that more than mantra and that more than mission is what drives us. It's what drives all the content we create, all the products we create. And I think as we're dealing with this now, we're really learning to be more than, right? Because we all had jobs, we were very focused, but now everyone's at home with their families. So you have to be more than an employee. While you're an employee, you have your kids to deal with, and you have to be more than just the father. Now you have to spend time and like you have to do everything you do has to be focused on how can I be more than my own little world. And I think what we're going through has forced us to think about ourselves and others around us and the rest of the world that way, which I think in the long run will turn out to be a good thing, for sure.
Right. Obviously, you have several different businesses. You obviously mentioned Uninterrupted. You have Spring Hill. You've been very involved, but they're not all necessarily similar. Can you talk a little bit about the motivation to start these different businesses and what you hope their legacy will be or what the impact can be?
Um, I don't even think about um, the legacy. I've really focused on with Uninterrupted and Spring Hill, the two businesses that I operate as a CEO, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole career and started many businesses and invested. But the two that I operate really focused on a um, businesses that make sense to me and to my team and partners, and that are authentic to what we want to do. Businesses that have a clear mission and that are focused on that mission, and we build products for a community that cares about that mission, and not the other way around. We didn't build a product and then figure out a mission, and then also really focused on bringing great people into those companies because I've been listening to a great book called Creativity Inc. and he asked the question, what's more important, great ideas or great people? And in the book, he says great people, which I agree wholeheartedly with because great people have great ideas and great people can execute on amazing ideas. So I've been very focused and spend a lot of time on getting amazing people into the company, keeping those people, and most importantly, creating an environment at that company that those people can be ambitious, work hard, and work together, and making sure that environment stays very fertile.
How does that? How motivating is that for you? Because I know in the past you've talked obviously about how LeBron helped create opportunity for you, and that in itself was motivating. But you had to do something with that opportunity. What is it like now for you to be able to create opportunity for others and more specifically find great people who can help you build great businesses?
Well, I think, I always talk about in life, everybody needs a platform, whether it's the place you work at, whether it's a sport, whether it's an idea, whatever. And I think, what I've been focused on is taking the opportunity that I had with LeBron and really how do I build a platform for others. And we've really focused on building a platform specifically that empowers talent and creators and very talented writers, directors, athletes to create and storytell in a way that will also create a platform and empower consumers on the other side and people that want to be better, want to see content, want to engage in products and events that will actually make them better and help them, empower them to either be better on the platform that they stand on or build their own platform or find one.
Right. And obviously one of those platforms, Uninterrupted, has, as we were talking about the idea of more than, you have more than an athlete. How inspiring or motivating do you think that has been for athletes that typically they're kind of put in a box, if you will, and you've really tried to expand the aperture of who they can be, what they can do, and the voice that they have? How important has that been not only for you, but what do you think that's done for athletes?
I think athletes have always been more than an athlete, right? They're humans first.
Right.
Even as great as and as much time as they pour into being professionals and being the very best at what they do, we all start off as humans. So I think they've always had that. But what we saw was there needed to be a place, a company, a brand, a platform that really stood for that and that woke up every single day with the feeling of how are we going to empower more athletes? How are we going to allow them to tell their story? And we built it in our brand Uninterrupted. And the athletes have really responded. And I think it was just pent up demand. Athletes always want to tell their more than athlete story. We just gave them a place, a group of professionals that think about it on a daily basis.
Right. I guess what's interesting about that is that so many businesses start from an idea that almost seems like it was obvious, but no one took that chance. Was there something that either motivated you or inspired you or pushed you to believe that you could be the one who could create this platform for athletes to speak really in a different way? Because athletes have been in front of the media forever. I mean, people don't realize how much it's probably overwhelming, at times maybe even paralyzing, because they're always in front of the camera. But you're not necessarily putting them in front of the camera just to talk about what they did on the court or in the field. Was there risk or was there concern in terms of trying to do something that others really hadn't done?
No, I think, the fact of the matter is, started with LeBron for me. I worked with LeBron my whole career, managed him, and we, he's always been very focused and is extremely very focused and single-minded on being the best basketball player and athlete that he can be. But he also was determined to help build platforms and empower others like myself. And, when he first wanted to talk about what he wanted to do and what he cared about, just realized there was no place to do it. We obviously did the decision, which was when he moved teams the first time. We used ESPN, which is our first foray into that. And it was not produced great and didn't come off great, but it was still the right idea, and I wouldn't go back and change it. And it was the beginning of Uninterrupted, was him just wanting to, and then he wrote his letter when he went back to Cleveland. It was just that whole idea of him wanting to tell his story without any interruptions and really wanted to have a one-to-one relationship with his fans and consumers.
Right. And how much do you think that plays in a role in your own development as a leader, as a CEO? Almost not necessarily regretting decisions, but learning from them and using them to grow. Because a lot of people could look at things like the decision and say that it wasn't necessarily the right thing, but you were able to see kind of the bigger picture of what you were trying to accomplish and continue to push that messaging forward to help give athletes a voice.
Well, I think, another jewel that I got from the book that I'm reading is, and sometimes it takes time because they hurt and they make you scared. And you just want to, even me, after the decision, want to go in a room and shut the door and not look at anyone and not think about the shit that you fucked up or your failures, but you have to discuss them. in order to
Right.
be a better company, a better executive, a better leader, a better, more talented person, more creative. You have to go, okay, we failed, we screwed something up. Let's really discuss it. And criticism has to be taken as a form of improvement, because when you're trying to do something new, mistakes are inevitable. They are actually, mistakes are an inevitable consequence of trying to do something new. So you're going to make mistakes, but you must discuss them and talk about them and go through them. And if you have a bunch of smart, talented people, you'll get better at it, but you have to discuss those failures no matter how hard it is. And sometimes it takes time. And once time passes, it's easier to discuss them.
Right. It's funny. You mentioned that. I thought a while back, over you were talking about fighters, and like when you have an underdog, the guy who has nothing to lose, those are the people who are most dangerous. You're in a position where you have a lot to lose. How do you keep that edge that allows you to continue to innovate while counterbalancing that fear of losing all of what you have built up or making those mistakes, knowing that they're inevitable? Is there a way to balance an aggressiveness of innovation and help against the fear of not screwing up?
Yeah, I think you have to, I grew up as a kid. My grandmother ran after hours, so I grew up around gambling as a kid. So I innately, without even knowing it, was learning the idea of risk versus reward and upside versus downside since I was a kid. And I think you have to learn to measure those things and then know, and we all know ourselves, how much in your gut can you stand if something goes wrong or you screw something up. If you can really, the more you can take, the better it is. The more losing or downside that you're willing to take, then it usually gives you the more upside. I think you also have to remember and know what's your break even. My dad always told me, I started with nothing. He's like, I didn't have a business or anything to leave you with. So if you screw it all up, you didn't lose, you actually just even. So everybody has to determine what their version of break even is for themselves and
Right.
how much stomach they have for losing. And then once you figure that out and really hone into it and really embrace that feeling, then your upside is limitless.
Awesome. I love that. I'm going to do a couple lightning round questions. Got to say, I love the unknown ladder collab. Anything you can share on
Yeah,
that?
I actually just got this, which is really cool. Sweatshirt, beautiful white sweatshirt, perfect timing. Little ladder branding and unknown. The store that LeBron obviously started in Miami many years ago, that's still being run fantastic by Jaron Camphor and Frankie Walker, and a little collaboration on a hoodie that I got gifted to me. So I appreciate Ladder and Unknown. Thank you. And I think there's details coming soon. There's going to be some giveaways of the hoodie on Ladder or something like that coming soon. I was lucky enough to get mine pretty early. Thank you, guys.
I'm jealous over there. I gotta grab one of those myself. So obviously you're a former athlete, and now I wonder, do you think that sports made you more competitive or motivated, or do you think that you were just a competitive person and that pushed you towards athletics?
I think I was a competitive person who went into athletics, but athletics, more than my competitive spirit, I always had a competitive spirit. Athletics just put gasoline on that. But what athletics gave me most and more than anything that I rely on is discipline. It gave me discipline, the idea that, okay, you have to show up, put in the work, do these things, go to practice day in and day out. It gave me the idea of patience and patience slash process, that like, okay, we start the year, we're not that good of a team. When I started high school as a freshman, I was an okay player. But if you're patient and go through the process, you can actually be great. And then thirdly, it gave me the feeling and being okay with and understanding doing the same thing over and over. And when you were an athlete, I played college basketball, you go to practice every single day, every single day. And you run the same plays and do the same one, just do it over and over. And a lot of people I notice in life struggle with doing the same thing 2 times, 3 times in a row. But that is the process, and sports teaches you that. And in business and in life, you need that type of discipline and that motivation and that understanding that I gotta keep, the old saying, practice makes perfect. But the truth is, you need perfect practice. You actually need to be great at practice. It's more than just showing up. You actually have to have perfect practice makes perfect, right? Like showing up and being disciplined and doing it great at practice, not just showing up and not paying attention. So I think those are the things that being an athlete instilled in me that I still live with today. And I use those in my business every single day.
Does that play out in your own health and fitness? Obviously, Ladder's a sports nutrition company. What keeps you motivated with your own health and fitness goals, whatever might it be? Is it that idea of practice or repetition? How has that played out, obviously, in a post-athletic career for you to stay healthy?
Well, I actually, like a lot of athletes, play, I can, I've been watching The Last Dance, and you see Michael Jordan's always looking for something to
Right.
keep him pushing an edge. And I try and do the same thing. So I'll play games with myself. Like if I'm out on a run or I'm training, I'll start to pretend this is the home stretch of closing a deal. And am I going to get deal fatigue and quit? Or am I going to keep going and close this deal when everybody else is losing focus? I got to do this last lap. I planned on doing, 2 miles, but I'm going to do one more mile, because that one more mile, I'll tell myself, is that one more mile is actually the thing that will help me propel my company to the next level. So I start to think about it as like pushing myself in health and wellness and activity, and still pushing myself in sport, is building my character and building because in business, there's a thing called deal fatigue, where you work on a deal or an idea so long and it's not happening that you give up on it. And I use health and fitness, or a run, or a high intensity interval workout to simulate that in my brain. I tell myself that simulation. And I watched the episode of The Last Dance last night. You look at Michael Jordan, Converse turned him down. They already had these athletes. Adidas turned him down, and he went to Nike. And he is a gigantic part and basically helped build that company,
Yeah.
because he had that same, like, you get turned down, but he had that stick to itness, that character, that ability to keep going. So I actually play mind games with myself and start comparing meetings to runs or workouts.
Yeah, I still think it was crazy that he didn't even want to sign with Nike. He was like the third one. He didn't want to go. I was watching Last Dance last night. It was a whole separate conversation, but wild how the entire trajectory of that business.
The world would be Nike owns Converse. If he went to Converse, Converse may own Nike. Who the hell knows?
Right. It is absolutely wild. Do you have any daily routines or habits, rituals that you fall back on, that if you find yourself losing course, that you rely on?
Yeah, for sure. I think a big one for me is in the morning. I got up this morning. I do about 45 minutes to an hour of activation and stretching. Like I activate first. So some simple air squats, some band walks, get my hips awaken, my knees. As my dad would say, I have a lot of mileage on my body. So I activate first and then stretch. That really helps me a lot. And then just getting a burn every day. I noticed I'm most thoughtful, most creative, and most engaged, and I'm most fired up when I'm like running and working out. And my team that I get to work with every day, probably they know when I'm like on a run. I start calling, I start hitting ideas. And during this quarantine, I've been walking more than ever, which is this. I get the same feeling of just like it does something to me that gets me going and gets my brain working. So I think stretching and doing some functional training in the morning, just getting my body started, and then making sure I get some kind of cardio burn. If I'm feeling bad, I fall back on those right away, and that's the best medicine I can take.
Awesome. One last question. So you obviously have that, as you mentioned, that thing inside you that just kind of pushes you. It's probably what pushed you towards athletics, but also something you honed by playing and practicing over and over. If someone doesn't have that as much innately, is there any advice that you can give that can help people kind of light a spark, give them an edge, get them in the right mindset to push themselves harder? What would you tell someone who says,
Yeah,
I don't have that? What would I do?
I think everybody has that inside them. What they need to find is what's the carrot to dangle in front of themselves, right? And like, you know, people used to put that carrot in front of the donkey, and the donkey will walk forever trying to get that carrot. You need to find that what's your carrot, and when you achieve it, it's the thing that I'm actually addicted to, which is accomplishment. When you achieve it, give yourself 24 hours to celebrate it, and then move the fuck on and get what's your next thing that you want to accomplish, or your next carrot. And my high school basketball coach used to tell me that we get a big win. I mean, my high school football coach, you get a big win, 24 hours. You celebrate for 24 hours, then you move on to the next thing, which some people could say that's bad. You don't take the time to soak it in. But if you love the process and you want to really keep going, you have to keep finding the next carrot, the next accomplishment. So you asked me earlier, what's the thing that keeps me going forward and taking risks? It's because if I get the thing I wanted, I celebrate it for 24 hours, have a dinner, have a great bottle of wine, and then what's the next thing? And if you can really truly find the carrot that you actually want, you may need it, but that you could want it so bad that it feels like a need. And more importantly, that you're extremely passionate about, that's going to matter to you. Some people, it could be fitting in a new pair of pants, changing the size of skirt they wear. Some people could be, I don't care if it's money motivated. Some people could be, they look at somebody else and go, I want to pass that person. I want to be stronger than that person. I want to build a bigger business than that person. Whatever it is, keep finding and dangling carrots in front of yourself, and that will be your jet fuel. That's what will actually power you forward. And actually, it'll make you'll get fearful of not achieving it. And that's what I have. I get very nervous. I get fear of not getting to my next accomplishment. And I don't let that fear shut me down. I actually use it as rocket fuel to go forward.
I love it. I think it's a great lesson for everyone. You mentioned it several times, not letting fear stop you, not letting failure stop you, learning, pushing forward. And sometimes things that could be a negative, you actually use it as a positive. You use it as the fuel to push you forward. And I think it's a great lesson for everyone. I really appreciate you joining us today. Blessed me with a lot of knowledge, and thank you for all that you do, Matt.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for Ladder for having me on. Thank you everyone else out there who joined, and have a great Monday and a great week. Find your carrot.
I love it. Stay safe, Matt.
Thank you, man.